great pleasure for myself also to meet Terry. We've been around the town. We're staying in the same venue, and I've been having a great chat and talking to him over coffee and stuff like that. So, first thing to begin with, which I will be interested more in myself, is just a little bit about yourself, Terry, about your background and how you came to be here tonight.
The first thing is thank you all for being here, particularly the people who came after the film. I know it's a strange fucking film. I know it's a strange journey. I'm under no illusions. But I'd like to have the temerity to ask you a question first. How many of you believe the ending was real versus how many of you believe the ending was a delusion? How many thought the ending was real?
Hoped.
Okay. At least some of you have romance left in your heart. Fuck the rest of you cynical pricks. No, but again, it's a film about delusion. It's a film about the separation between illusion and reality. And it's a film that's over 10 years old. But I'm obsessed with, in all the work that I do, I'm obsessed with the interrogation of what we are willing to do to convince ourselves things that are not real are real. What we are also willing to do to ourselves to convince ourselves that things that are real are not. And I thought it was can everybody hear me? Do I need a mic?
Yeah.
I thought it was a kind of personal obsession, but I don't know whether you're aware of it or not. In Ireland, in the last decade or so, those fundamental principles are now manifested in every aspect of our culture. Our art, our politics, our interpersonal engagement. And we have people who are orchestrating a deliberate division and using our inability to tell the difference between illusion and reality. Then you add to that mix AI, which didn't exist when we made the film. And now we're in a realm where we have people who sometimes for noble intent will try to convince us of things that aren't real, like their love for us. And until we discover it is real, and it's a staggering discovery to realize that somebody is capable of loving us. But then other times we have people who are, for deeply malicious and nefarious reasons, trying to convince us that our hate is real, and that our hate is the only thing that really anchors us. And we're seeing this manifest across the board in our culture in Ireland at the moment. We're seeing it manifest in multiple countries, but particularly in Ireland, which seems to be a kind of petri dish for this division between illusion and reality. So, Jody asked me a simple fucking question, and that's the answer I gave you. My apologies.
Just to continue on this, because I was interested at the beginning, when you introduced yourself at the beginning of the film, you actually said that this is a political film. Now, I couldn't detect that directly in it, so is what you've just said, is that what you mean, or is there something more specific in that?
Well, it's interesting that Dennis mentioned, and by the way, just in front of all these people, your staggering kindness over the last few days is just a revelation. Thank you. I've been to festivals all over the world, and occasionally you get something that's really, really special. This isn't one of those, but it's pretty decent. but thank you, Dennis. It's a remarkable festival and remarkable audiences. In terms of the politics of it, you mentioned One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We screened at the Woodstock Film Festival, and we won the Haskell Wexler Award. Haskell Wexler was the cinematographer of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And just before he fucking died, he watched this film, and he wrote the most extraordinary piece about the film. And he didn't just compare it to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in terms of how he filmed it, he compared it in terms of the political determination behind it to transcend something that appears to be a certain thing. And then you see this film in certain countries, in different contexts. I'm here with Paulina, she's Russian. We've played in China. We won major awards in Russia, actually. It's fascinating to see certain cultures engage in a very, very different film than the film that we appear to be seeing. And every time we screen it, different people have very, very different reactions to it. Different people have very different personal reactions to it. We've screened in scenarios where people with mental illness or diagnosed mental illness had profound responses to it and caused extraordinary visceral responses, and they took action. We've been in situations where other people walked out of it in horror and disgust and contempt for what they perceived to be the depiction of the work that they do. The work they do as nurses, doctors, as psychiatrists, as whatever. In Ireland, we had Dr. Gareth O'Connor and Professor Ivor Brown, the two most maverick psychoanalysts in the history of our culture, and both of them became profound champions of the film. They insisted it should be used as a teaching tool in universities across the world. So occasionally, people see the politics of it, but what you want it to exist on is on a visceral level, on an emotional level. I don't know how it spoke to any of you. Some of you might have been indifferent to it, some of you might have been moved by it, some of you might have had whatever different reactions. But we wanted to make a film that was about how we are being gaslit into believing things that are damaging to us under the umbrella of this thing called love. And we are using love and we're using vulnerable people as a weapon to remove us from reality. And that's the politics.
I see, very, very good, very good. Very good. Okay, so first questions. I mean, obviously, it's the first time that I saw the movie, and I think the best word to describe it is powerful. It's certainly something very different that is coming at you in a very, very strong, meaningful way. So a very, very interesting movie. Actually, before I put it to the floor, out of my own interest, it's 12 years old. It was made in 2014. In Ireland itself, what was the public reaction to it?
Again, the most prestigious festival in Ireland is the Galway Film Festival. It won the Galway Film Festival.
Right,
That's
right.
right. It won awards all over the world, frankly. I don't mean to sound immodest, but it did. And then what happened was there was a company in America that bought it with a global distribution plan. And it was everybody was excited and everything was wonderful. And then the company collapsed.
Sure.
But as a consequence of its collapse, there's a thing called Chapter 11. And it costs a lot of money to hire lawyers to extricate your film from that company. They went into bankruptcy. So overnight we went from being this wonderful, embraced film to being a film that was no longer in existence. And we don't have the rights to it anymore.
Oh, really, really?
So what I did was I put it on YouTube.
Oh, I see, I see. Now, actually, just on the reason I asked you this question about what was the initial reaction, if you finished it here in 2026 and it went to the audience, what do you think the response would be?
Good question. I don't mean to sound like I'm whining, but again, the idea of going from zero, or hero to zero. We wanted to make these very powerful films, but asking the wrong questions in Ireland, maybe it's the same in Germany, maybe it's the same in Berlin, I don't know, but asking the wrong questions leads to immediate cancellation. And it doesn't matter what your intention is, it doesn't matter how noble the intention might be, you're immediately characterized as something that is rejected. So we had a film that was extraordinarily well embraced to being erased from history.
Is that right?
Because
Okay.
the writer-director has a big mouth, apparently.
Well, that's very interesting. And with that background now, I think it's time for, if anybody has any questions to put to, please.
The mother was an absolutely horrible person. Was she based on someone you knew, or is it completely out of your head fiction?
I worked in a psychiatric hospital, Piedmont Hospital in Newcastle. And I saw all the time how when parents or guardians would come in at the weekend to visit the so-called patients, they were really inmates. When they come in to visit them, they were treated in an infantile or an infantilized way, which is kind of understandable. But the moment they aspired toward intimacy, or sex, or anything like that, they were treated as if they were degenerates. And it was amazing to watch it happen again and again and again. So I'm very curious about the idea of what we're willing to do, and we qualify it within whatever umbrella we justify it with. I don't see her as a villain. Kerry Fox plays her. I think Kerry Fox is a great, great actor. She played her a certain way, and I watched the way she was playing her, and I went, okay, this is really interesting. But the example that we give at the time is that we lie to our children every day. We lie to them about Santa Claus to begin with. We lied to them about fairies, we lied to them about all these things. But part of the reason we lie to them is to try and give them a moral construct within which to comprehend a world that is incomprehensible. Then we introduce the concept of God. Again, with no provable verification, and suddenly we have a moral compass for that child. Now, there's nothing we won't do for our children, including lying to them, in order to protect them. The mother is just an extension of that idea. And that's why the idea of whether the ending is an illusion or not, if you look at it, at the end of the film, when she takes all the pictures off the wall, the last picture in the corner is an empty frame. In all likelihood, Patrick is dead. In the reality of the statistics, he would have killed himself. Because once you are diagnosed in this realm, once in terms of a reductionist idea of schizophrenia, and once you enter that realm of electroconvulsive therapy and the drugs that go along with it, the downward spiral is extraordinary. But at the same time, we're trying to talk about the idea of love being capable of conquering all. I don't know if love is capable of conquering all, but I fucking see every day that hate is capable of eroding everything in front of us. And we're now dressing hate up as love. We're insisting with the arrogance of somebody who loves that anybody who questions this new ideology of love is going to be destroyed. So in terms of the character, I don't see her as a villain. I don't think she's a fucking scumbag. I don't think she's any of those things. I think she is a human being who's trying, within very specific circumstances, to do what she has been told by the profession that diagnose people is the most appropriate response and the most appropriate behavior, including gaslighting, including completely rearranging reality. That make sense?
Yeah, I sort of see what you're saying. I mean, everybody's lied to the kids, but I don't think I've ever gaslit my kids. And she was, as you said, doing an awful lot of gaslighting.
But even the phrase, it's interesting because at the time when we made the film, the gaslighting now is, there were certain phrases, certain buzz phrases that have become part of language in such a short period of time. Everyone's a fucking narcissist now. Nobody knows what a narcissist is, but we use the term all the time. We use the term gaslighting all the time now. These are really incredibly serious patterns of behavior, or modes of behavior that have been exploited by people for, again, nefarious reasons. But we all gaslight all the fucking time. We gaslight ourselves. We get up in the morning, look in the mirror, see some ugly bastard looking back at us, and we go, fuck, another day. That's a kind of gaslighting.
Just a question for you, Terry. Before this film, this film, you've got amazing, must have a budget to do it. You wrote it yourself, you directed it, but to get the money behind that to do it, you must have a prior story, like short films, or how did you get to the point that someone said, let's go with this script, this story, and fund it? I mean, it's such an amazing. Like, is that the one of many films you did, or can you give some background before this film was produced?
There's a producer called Tim Palmer. Sure, you probably know Tim Palmer. Yeah. Fabulous man. Tim Palmer did, what's that wonderful Irish film, The Guys on the Horse? Into the West.
Into the West.
He produced Into the West. He produced a few other films. A magnificent man. He saw the first film that we made, a film called Charlie Casanova, which was a film that was made for less than €1,000. Ended up having a world premiere at South by Southwest, was picked up for distribution by Studio Canal, and then was fucking murdered on the altar of obscenity. So you learn the hard way that you make a film and you go, okay, I don't know how an audience is going to respond to it. The budget for Patrick Stewart was 400 grand. Now 400 grand in terms of, for those of you who don't know, 400 grand is a tiny sum of money. You wouldn't pay for the fucking mineral water in the standard set. But for me, it was a huge amount of money. However, nothing changed. I got paid 12 grand to write and direct Patrick Stewart. That's a 3-year job. The fucking dog in the film got paid more than me. It's not a joke. And he's a nice dog too. I should have robbed the fucker. But the film, Tim Palmer saw Charlie Casanova. And despite, Charlie Casanova was a profoundly divisive film. And again, it won the Galway Film Flag. But it was so divisive that it caused kind of the mayhem. And part of the problem was, who does this prick think he is having the right to discuss class in Ireland when he hasn't been through the proper schools, the proper film schools, the proper anything? But Tim saw the film and he had a remarkable response to it. He said, do you have anything else? And I sent him, I think it was 4 scripts. And unlike many producers who claim they want to read, even though they're fucking illiterate, he read them all on the weekend. And he said, this is the one I want to make. And then Barry Keoghan, he wanted to cast Barry Keoghan. And I knew Barry, and Barry's a great kid. And we did a screen test with Barry and Catherine, who plays Karen in the film The Air Hostess, who's a friend of mine. And when we filmed the test footage, I went, this kid is too young.
Yeah.
So we had to recast him. And we recast him with a total unknown.
Really?
Mo Dumford, who's now, I don't know whether you know or not, but he's a rising star, like a legitimately rising star. And when you're dealing with an unknown entity like Mo Dumford, who people haven't a clue who the fuck he is, you've got to take a big risk, and you've got to protect him, and you've got to make sure. And I think it's interesting too, I haven't seen the film in so long, but watching him tonight, whatever faults are in the film are mine, but I think it's pretty irrefutable that this kid is remarkable. That's his first fucking movie. And he delivers this kind of extraordinary performance. So, but what's interesting, the reason I'm, in the longest way possible, the reason I'm saying all this is that the difference between a €1,000 film and a €400,000 film, and I've been on Batman Begins and a few other sets where it's hundreds of millions of dollars, there's no difference in terms of what happens in front of the lens of the camera. All you're trying to do, Christopher Nolan is only interested in what happens in front of the lens of the camera. And what an audience is looking for is 2 people to discover something in real time in front of the lens, where you hold your breath for a second. And that was Catherine Walker and Kerry Fox and Mo Dumford and Philip Jackson and Aaron Monaghan, and that's what you're looking for all the time, and it doesn't matter what the budget is.
And how would you build up like the skill set or the know-how, or is just innate, like you, to create all the different scenes, the kind of like fuzzy scenes, and there was so many, you know, not the right word, but it's good delirium or whatever.
But again,
how did you have the background?
It's a great question, but again, for those of you in the room, I know some of you are aspiring filmmakers. The first thing is, I would strongly suggest you do not have to know everything before you go in. You do not have to have a storyboard that you're going to religiously adhere to. Now, obviously, you've got to be prepared. You've got to have the courtesy and the decency and the intelligence to do a bit of fucking preparation. But outside that, entering the unknown space is the greatest place you can enter. And entering the unknown space with people who are willing to have the courage to go there with you, that becomes something that the older I get, the more I realize is, to me, the essential quality and essential hook for everything you do. In terms of knowledge, we sat down, Michael Lavelle is the cinematographer, fantastic man, beautiful man. And again, it was him who won the award from Haskell Wexler. We sat down and we watched 3 films, and one of the films was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So fast forward all this time later, and we won the Haskell Wexler Award, which is nuts. Second film was The Graduate. We watched The Graduate. I don't know whether you know The Graduate or not. Wonderful film. Mike Nichols directed The Graduate. I think it was his second film. But The Graduate was for structure and form, to recognize how we use them. And then the last one was, at the time, not the superstar who won the best Oscar the other night, but P.T. Anderson's Punch Drunk Love. Punch Drunk Love was about tone, and the tone of Punch Drunk Love. So we sat down and watched those 3 films. And then we sat down and we went through. The producer sent us to a fancy hotel in, I don't know where the fuck it was, some fancy hotel, and he made the idiotic mistake of saying that the bar bill was on him. So we just drank our fucking faces off for 5 days, and he swore, we promised him we'd come back with a storyboard. And we'd never come back with a storyboard. We sat down and we discussed the script, we discussed every scene in the script and every line in the script, and we discussed whose point of view it was happening from. Once we understood the point of view, then everything we arrived on set, and again, Michael's a brilliantly fucking magnificent human being anyway, but as soon as we arrived on set, I would tell him whose point of view it was from. And instantly he would understand. So we saved a huge amount of time, but there was no storyboard. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Is this making sense to anybody? Is it making sense?
Well, technically, what was your, like, how did you become involved in film for the first place? How did you get into film?
With Charlie Casanova, I was homeless when I was 15, and I hadn't a fucking clue what was going to happen next, and I left school early and all that kind of stuff. And I was terrified that I was going to become a ghost in my own life. And as absurd as it sounds, I went to a bookies, and I picked up a pencil, and I picked up the bookie slip, and I wrote interior, dot, and I started writing a prison script. Because I knew if I didn't write something, and this is again with no education, no knowledge, but a profound love for film. And then that thing became something that became a screenplay. And this is going to sound absurd, because it is absurd. There was a student that I was teaching, or had taught, and she ended up being an assistant on a film in Los Angeles. And the producer of the film was this fucking highbrow professor, American professor. And he said to her one night at the bar, how come there are no great Irish writers anymore? And for whatever fucking reason, she says, I read the script, it was a great script by an Irish writer. And he says, can I read it? So she asked me, could he read it? And I says, of course he can fucking read it. He read the script, and I was living in a corporation block of flats in Dublin. And I got a call, and it was this professor guy. And he said, I read your script, I think it's blah, blah, blah. I'm working on a screenplay with Daryl Hannah. Would you be interested in working on it? I said, of course. I'm standing in a corporation block of flats going, would I be fucking interested? I'm on the dole, for God's sake. But he was one of these guys, I don't know whether people can recite poetry. Pauline is a poet, but I can't read a poem and recite it. I'd have to spend 15 days learning a fucking 6-line poem. But he was one of these remarkable intellectuals who can sight read a poem and remember it and recite it verbatim. So over the course of the conversation, he was quoting poems and quoting full poems, and I'm sitting there on the phone going, whatever fucking turns you on, pal. But he says, did you ever read Charles Bukowski on Writing? Which is a poem by Charles Bukowski. And what he didn't know was that in front of me on the shelf was a book by Charles Bukowski. And I said, yeah, I know it well. And I'm opening the fucking pages as quietly as possible. And then I read the poem. I wasn't being disingenuous, I just read the poem, but he thought I recited it off the top of my head. And he thought I was as intellectually superior to other human beings as he was. And that charmed the fuck out of him. And then he asked me would I work on the script. And he says, I can't pay you a lot of money. And I was standing there going, okay, well, I don't know what that means, but I said, we're not doing this for money. He says, is 25,000 okay for you? And I fucking swallowed hard. And I says, for you, I'll do it for that price. And he paid me 25 grand, and I was flown over first class to Los Angeles, sat down with Daryl Hannah for a few weeks, and wrote a screenplay, and she was delighted with it, and all that kind of stuff. So occasionally that kind of madness and magic occurs, and that was how it happened.
Very good, fantastic. So, any
Can I ask you-
questions from the back?
But the making of the film, was it over what period of time? You know, how much was it into before you even got to shoot, then filming, and then post-production, just to give us that?
It's just a 17-day shoot. So, and again, the guy who was doing the locations wasn't the brightest, so we ended up having to use my house and use the corner shop and all that kind of stuff. But there was really, you're always looking for a moment in any creative endeavor where people go, fuck, this is more than I thought it was. And the scene where Mo Dunford breaks down as Patrick, where he's punching his head, and where he's begging for reality to return, we shot that on, I think it was the first or second day. Maybe it was the third day, but the first AD, a lovely fellow, John Burns, he was brought in to make sure that I did not fuck around with the schedule. And on that day, he watched that scene, and the producer took him aside and he says, how's it going? And he says, he's behind schedule. And if you want me to, I can bring him back on schedule. But he's doing something that I've never seen before. And the producer, thankfully, had the balls to go, okay, protect that. So it's a very short time frame, but you're trying to find those moments. And again, structurally, whatever issues in the film, they're my fault. But you're looking for a crew to go, we're involved in something special. And when a crew feels that they're involved in something special, they'll fucking die for you. People talk about the cast all the time, they call them the talent, this idiotic phrase. The talent is the cast and the crew, but when a crew feel like they're involved in something special, they will move mountains for you. And it doesn't matter what the budget is, and it doesn't matter what the time frame is. So we shot the last frame on the last second of the last day. And then it was over. And then I went, fuck, we forgot a shot. And we ran upstairs and took another shot of him, where he's scraping his fingers inside the ear vent. So again, it's like all these things, making a film, as you all know yourself, making a film is going to war against the impossible. That's your start position. And if you're lucky, the impossible will get out of your way briefly and the gods will shine on
I saw RTE appeared as on the credits.
Yeah.
Do they show it on RTE and is it on TV?
Multiple times, the
Multiple
motherfuckers.
Okay. Oh, they have.
They were way beyond what they paid for.
Okay.
But I'm being an asshole.
And the rights are, you said, out in Nimble, some sort of chapter 12 or 14 or whatever. But like, would a streamer be interested in it? Will it get out to a wide audience?
It's on, somebody mentioned Amazon last night. It's on Amazon. But being on Amazon is like being on fucking Tinder. Pointless.
Pretty sure it's been on SBS Australia.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really? Wonder what motherfuckers get paid for that.
I was kind of with those movies we sit and watch and
Really?
never got around to them. And that was the first
Well, again, I'm being facetious. The people involved, not only did nobody make a dime out of it, nobody fucked anybody over, nobody did anything like that. They're great people who fucking put everything on the line for a tiny little film that kept on punching way above its weight division every time. And again, like countries like, won awards in Australia, China, wherever the fuck. And to watch those reactions in those cinemas, again, that's a small cinema downstairs and it's a strange scenario, but when we screened in Russia and it was 4 floors. I think it was 3,500 people in the fucking cinema. Can you imagine that number? It's nuts. And a lot of them were physically and mentally disabled. And you're looking at them going, how the fuck are we going to screen a film in this context? And then suddenly it starts playing and suddenly there's this extraordinary reaction where people are seeing a version of their lives play out in a way that they've never seen before. And it's a deeply personal experience to them, and they project their personal experience onto it. And suddenly you're going, occasionally the film becomes something much bigger to people who have been diagnosed or reduced or dehumanized because of their mental state.
Sorry, I'll ask you another question, but Terry, you said you were very kindly offering to do workshops when you were over here. So what are you doing at the moment? Are you making films? Are you helping people to learn the art of film, or what's your current activity?
I'm going to France next week for 2 weeks to run a workshop over there. They've hired me to run a workshop, but again, it's Ireland. So I've been cancelled for again asking the wrong questions, making the wrong speeches, questioning what the fuck we're doing. I had a film that was greenlit after 10 years, and I made a speech in England at a rally for freedom of speech, and suddenly I'm a Nazi and a fascist and so on and so forth. So the lead actor and the producer walked from the film. So again, it's that thing where it's kind of sad to watch that film because you're going, oh, I want to make movies, that's all I want to do. But also as filmmakers, as artists, whatever you want to call us, I think it's really important that we fucking stop staying silent about things that need to be talked about. And again, with respect, people are relentlessly screaming about the injustices in Gaza. Irish artists are very, very careful about the hand-picked campaigns they get behind. And those hand-picked campaigns are very safe. So abortion, COVID, Gaza, but in actuality, the things that are happening in our culture as a result of our politicians, artists are horribly silent, painfully silent about it. And like a fucking idiot, I can't keep my mouth shut. So that's the consequence of it. It's a nice, happy fucking conversation.
No, I mean, that's one of the main points, and certainly that's something personally I'd like to see here. So, Lydia,
I
please.
don't know if you said it already, but do you think that the end is real?
Do I think the end is real?
Yeah.
I'm a hopeless romantic.
Okay.
Until I'm not. Again, it's the idea of ambiguity, and again, this is not in any patronizing way, but someone was mentioning Netflix earlier. I find that increasingly when I watch films and when I watch TV shows, I know exactly what they are because they tell me every second exactly what they are. And every frame and every declaration and every character casting and every fucking DEI hire tells me every moment what it is. I'm bored to fucking tears by that. I like ambiguity. I like not knowing where I am. I like being confused. I like having to find out for myself what it is. So the ending could be multiple things at once, and at the very least should be maybe fucking minimum 2 things at once.
So you're a fan of French films?
Who's not? Good French films, but again, it's not about French films, it's about great cinema. Great cinema is supposed to stimulate and provoke you into questioning your presumed moral position. Not only do I have no certitude about anything, but I'm constantly confounded by the people who have a declared position and it is irrefutable on any given position. Why the fuck would you do that to yourself or to other people? So I think cinema, of all the things out there, because cinema is a dream. Cinema is watching a dream unfold in front of you. And cinema is your personal, like I think it's incredibly exciting that every single person in that room saw a different film. Not because the film is particularly good or bad, but because their particular position in relation to their life in that moment before they watch a film is whatever it is. That's beautiful. That enters the realm of dream.
Two quick questions, Mark.
Just one second, because somebody asked.
But I'll just throw it in there. At Burnhill, I think the lovely Wim Wenders managed to say that cinema isn't political. Wonder what you think about that. And the second thing is we saw a fantastic film earlier in the festival where a Norwegian came into Ireland and it came into a community
And made a masterpiece.
Made a fantastic film. So, and a lot of films are collaborations between, or at least different countries come in to fund them. So maybe is it to move outside of the lovely Green Ireland to find your next support and to realise your film dream? So there was two questions in there. First, Wim Wenders.
I did a film in Africa. So that was the last film I made. A crazy, fucking insane journey, a feature film in Africa. I don't know whether any of you have been to Nigeria or not. It's fucking Nutsville. It's crazy, but in a brilliant way. We were discussing it last time. There's 247 million declared people in Nigeria, probably another 50 million on top. And when you arrive in Nigeria, everybody is the central character in their own movie. Every character is on the make, on the hustle. They're incredible to engage with. But to make a film under those circumstances was pretty much impossible. And yet the film that has come out as a consequence, I think it might be the best thing I've ever done. But as a consequence, some fucking idiot was whispering in the producer's ear and they recut the film and they killed it. They literally destroyed it. In terms of Wim Wenders, I went I went to see, I made the mistake of going to see Paris, Texas with my teenage daughter. Jesus Christ. A film I loved. I don't know whether you know Paris, Texas or not. It's extraordinary. I thought it was an extraordinary film. Sit beside a teenage girl talking about the male gaze. Suddenly you're going, fuck. But I think Wenders is, I'm not going to paraphrase him or presume to know anything, but I think the difference between politics and propaganda is what he's talking about. Cinema should not be propaganda. Cinema should not be, I'm using DEI as an example, but to me DEI is one of the most damaging things imaginable to cinema. Because it removes merit, it removes struggle, it removes the things that keep us different and make us fucking separate from each other in some idea of a cohesive. It's like some fucking moron in a committee made the decision that filmmakers have to abide by these set of standards that bear no relation to anybody's reality. So I worked with Werner Herzog recently.
Werner Herzog, amazing.
Fucking incredible. And I ended up working as an actor with Werner Herzog. And to watch Werner Herzog in action, to watch the madness of this motherfucker who walks into the unknown space constantly with this major cast, these Academy Award winning actors, and yet all he wants to do is find that undiscoverable moment, to find the thing that makes us go, what the fuck was that? And if that's not what cinema is about, what's the point? Because everything else is propaganda. Every television show is propaganda. Every fucking state-sponsored fucking media is propaganda. The last thing we have, the last vestige of hope is cinema.
Yeah, the great writer Werner Fassbinder would be also in the great pantheon of German directors, and I think some of his work like Angst, Essen, Seele auf, where he looked at the new Germans, the immigrants that came here and they ate their couscous and trying to integrate, and the difficulty of Germans to deal with that was an amazing theme. And so many things. Germany in autumn, where there was all of this paranoia and people trying to, so there's an awful lot of German films that we could look to as.
But can you imagine Fassbinder trying to make movies today? He'd be cancelled before he'd even be, he'd be fucking, he'd have his head torn off.
We don't see enough of Fassbinder, yeah. Well,
Genius.
I think we look at independent films. On the first night, our opening film, we had two young Irish filmmakers, the Gilmore brothers, Jonica and Gearóid, and they did a pretty cool film on a small budget with interesting themes, and I think that's an example of what's possible.
So, but again, and I mean this with respect, but it's not, they're making a film about a trans central character. That's not the brave action we think it is.
You
Whereas,
know, I was saying love story to interrupt you, and that would happen to be the case.
well, of course, but I'm saying that there, like the film, I don't know whether you've seen the Norwegian filmmaker, Kristen, what's her name?
Oh, shit.
She made a film called Robin in the Hood. It might be the best short film I've ever seen in my fucking life. It's a masterpiece.
It won the audience award as well, so
Here,
really,
it
you
won,
want
yeah.
to get behind it. Good film.
But it's one of those films where you sit there and you go, holy fuck, there is no precedent for this. There's no agenda, there's no politics behind it. It's trying to understand the incomprehensible, frame by frame, moment by moment. It's funny, it's romantic, it's hilarious, it's dark, it's a powerhouse. And yet the film is largely ignored. Anyway, sorry, I'm sounding like a cynical prick here.
I have a very cheesy question. What was your experience working with dog?
Working with who?
A dog actor.
Dog actor.
He deserves his award. I forgot what's it called. It's equal to Oscars, but the pets actors, they have their own thing.
My experience, again, it's interesting you asked the question, because I can only be honest with you. I found it horrible. But no, but the reason I found it horrible is that the dog was not allowed to have any affection. The dog was not allowed to have any spontaneous engagement. And the handler was a fucking scumbag.
Oh, dear.
So I had to remove the handler from the dog as quickly as possible. She wasn't happy about it. And when the handler was gone, I started to play with the dog, and rolling around the floor with the dog, and the dog suddenly was looking over his shoulder, waiting for her to come, and she didn't come. And then the dog became alive. So when we look at dogs and animals in film, they might be getting paid a lot, but they ain't getting the money. The fucking handler, who's usually a circus freak, is getting the money. Sorry again for the nihilistic answer. I'm actually much more fucking happy in real life.
Any more questions, or do you want to conclude there,
There's
Jim?
one over here. Oh, over here.
Hi, just asking for an aspiring filmmaker, if you have any key advice for someone who isn't quite sure a word start or something that has stuck with you throughout your years of filmmaking that just you find very key, important.
What's your name?
Kiva.
Kiva. Beautiful name. Kiva, the only thing I can say over and over again, like who the fuck am I to give advice to anybody? But the only thing I can say over and over again look what Paulina is filming now. If you have a mobile phone on you, that mobile phone has greater power than cameras that would have cost £250,000 35 years ago. But think about that idea. That phone has the facility to record a remarkably good sound, astonishing picture, and you can edit it on your fucking phone. Why are we seeking permission from authorities or financiers or whomever to make the kind of things we want to make? Write something that makes you uneasy. Write something that's a secret that you want to scratch at. Write something that makes you think you're alone in the world. And when you shoot it and put it together, you will discover that not only are you not alone in the world, but the other people who thought that were alone in the world suddenly feel that they're being fucking engaged with. If that's not the reason we're doing what we're doing, what the fuck is the point?
With regards to being aspiring filmmakers also, just from my own perspective, and I'm an animation professional, I tend to look at the movies from a technical point of view. And if you are aspiring filmmakers, I would advise you to sit at home, watch the movie again with the pause button and go through it, because it is beautifully shot and constructed, literally frame by frame or scene by scene. And maybe you have a little bit more to say about that, Terry, just about how you actually approach technique, because there's really, really strong shots there, strong composition, depth of field, focus. So much has gone into the actual work of this film itself. So,
Well, again, we'll get to you in a second. I know you're going to answer a question. Again, it's that simple idea. I can't think of anything more fucking boring than a car chase. Now, I know some people love it. I can't think of anything more fucking boring than an action scene. And again, I have no problem with people who love that. But when we talk about cinema, I think the greatest landscape in the world is the landscape of the human face. There is nothing comparable to the landscape of the human face. Particularly when an actor is unaware of what might happen next. You're trying to put an actor into a position, trying to frame it properly, obviously, but you're trying to put them into a position where they lose the certitude that they had prepared for the scene. And when they lose that certitude and they become vulnerable in the best sense of the term, and they don't know what's going to happen next, even though the scene has certain confines, you're trying to capture that. Now, you shouldn't obviously shoot an entire film in a close-up, but you're looking to qualify the close-up. You're looking to find the medium wide, the wide, the medium wide, the medium close-up to the close-up. You're looking to make sure that the language that is in motion earns the right to the close-up. So all the time you're looking for a functionary purpose. So the scene with the dog, when the dog enters the frame, and then he's walking with the dog, and the dog stops and he stops and all that kind of stuff. That, out of necessity, has to be a wide shot. To shoot that in close-up would be fucking stupid. But at the same time, when he gets to a scene where he falls in love, and she opens the door, to shoot that in a wide two-shot would be idiotic. You need to be in close-up for him to ask the question that he's terrified of asking. The script itself will tell you, kind of organically, where the close-ups are required and how to qualify the justification of the close-up. Does that make sense? What were you going to ask?
I like the character of the philosopher very much, and my question is, you punish him for his betrayal to the Chester while he laughs about?
Did everybody hear that question? No, you didn't. You're talking about the policeman?
Sure. Question again?
Please.
I said I like the character of the policeman, and I asked whether he was punished for the thing that he betrayed the man to be a Chester, then nobody was about.
Again, like one of the, I'm again very interested in things that don't work in terms of people. His name is Philip Jackson. He's a fucking amazing British actor. He's been making movies for over 40 years. I couldn't believe we got him in the film. He came on the first day, did the first scene, and the whole fucking cast and crew cracked up laughing. The only person who wasn't laughing was me. And I had to take him aside and said to him, this character's not funny. If this character's funny, we're fucking dead. The whole function of it is that he's not funny. He doesn't understand he's not funny. And when he understood that and suddenly he's played out, you go, the producers are probably going, fuck, we could do with a break here. We could do with the lightheartedness, we could do with his natural charisma, his comic ability. But it doesn't make sense for the thematic interrogation of the film. In terms of him as a character, when he says to her, I've done a lot of shit in my time and I've never been ashamed of any of it until now. I think all of us at some stage in our life have experienced that. And this is a character who, she asked him, have you ever done anything illegal in the force? And he said, the whole fucking force has. He's trying to do the right thing. And in trying to do the right thing, he's very happy. When he brings her into the police station, there's a fucking guy who's having the shit beaten out of him. The door bursts open. He helps them drag the guy back in again. That's how meaningless that violence is to him. I know some cops. Some of them are lovely people. Some of them are so removed from reality that to see violence being committed against somebody by their own kind is as casual as having breakfast in the morning. Does that answer your question?
So, Karen, we haven't said anything about the character of Karen herself. Any thoughts or opinions about it?
One of the highest per capita in terms of jobs in the world of suicides is among air hostesses, which is fucking bizarre. Yeah. Dentists apparently at the top, according to whatever, but air hostesses, some claim it's their body clock getting fucked up, some claim it's the alienation, and some claim it's that they're forced to be nice to people when they fucking want to throw them off a plane. But she's Catherine Walker, she's a good friend of mine, and again, you're watching her and she speaks in phrases that are like something from a 50s movie, because she has learned how to tell people in short sentences what they need to hear. But then she meets this fucking retard, and this retard brings out in her the innocence that she had long ago since forgotten. And again, it's back to the idea of whether the ending is real or not. Did she have the child or not? It's not some kind of fucking mystery. It's the idea of, yes, she made the appointment, but did she turn up for the appointment? We find with characters like that who have the courage to take risks that confound themselves, they are capable of extraordinary change.
Very good.
We've actually gone over time, so we'll do one last question if anyone has.
Nobody Nobody wants to ask a question with that kind of fucking introduction. Listen, thank you all so much for coming and for coming to the Q&A afterwards. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hooray!